Welcome back to the Empower Podcast. My name is Blaine, and today we're joined again by Antonia Lorenz, CEO and co-founder of the Waya Collective. So the Waya Collective is the first RealFi production network on Cardano that enables a new economic model for Africa that is sustainable, inclusive, and efficient. So Antonia, thank you again for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so there's been a couple of things, updates since we last spoke. So I thought it'd be cool to have you on the show again and just maybe have a conversation around what those updates are. But for those that missed our first podcast, which you can also find on YouTube and the podcast channels, can you maybe give a quick intro on who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Antonia Lorenz, and I am CEO and co-founder of Waya Collective. I initially initiated Waya Collective about 1.5 years ago. Back then, really more thinking about the African fashion industry, creating jobs, really seeing a problem on ground in Uganda. And yeah, I decided to move to Uganda to really go full time. And yeah, ever since then, multiple people have joined me. We're a co-founder team of 4 so far. And yeah, it's been a great journey, becoming really part of the Cardano community as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, awesome. Putting our ideas into reality.
Okay, so we mentioned the white paper, but maybe before we go into the white paper, what's the high level overview of Waya Collective? What's, I guess, the elevator pitch high level overview?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe to start out with the problem. So we realized that in our modern world, we need industries. So there's no real question about that. The question is rather, what do we want these industries to look like? So should they be like they're now, centralized, where only a few people have the power over billions of livelihoods? And should they be far away and take advantage of low labor cost countries? Should they be destroying the environment and our earth? And we realized, no, they should not. And we at Waya Collective believe that industries should be locally owned, and a lot of people should have the power over them. And we also believe that industries should be decentralized and localized, creating local wealth for everyone in the end. And we also believe that, yeah, our industries shouldn't harm the planet, and they should be robust enough to really sustain themselves in a very fast changing world. So in short, we just think that localized industries are more efficient, better for Earth, and better for humans. So we really asked ourselves, how can we build localized industries, but in a scalable way? Because we don't have so much time to solve this issue. And our goal is really to build hundreds of factories, thousands of stores, and millions of jobs, which are all localized and 100% locally owned. And our vision is to create the system to build these local economies in a scalable way. Yeah, so how do we do this? There's basically 3 main building blocks, which is Africa on the first hand, it is blockchain, and it is a franchise model. And Africa still has, a huge need for local industries, and also a huge need for better products, which is why it can really be the pioneer for building localized industries. And on the other hand, blockchain is really the only way to finance these industries efficiently. And on the other hand, it's also the only way to really decentralize power. And the blockchain model comes in because we want to scale it. We want to actually be able to replicate knowledge, working models, so that we can have a system that scales to actually build these hundreds of factories, not in 100 years, but in 10 years. yeah, so in short, I would say Waya Collective is we're a RealFi project, startup that, we combine the franchise model with decentralized finance. And we basically build a platform to create and finance franchises that are localized and have decentralized power.
Interesting. So when you started that, you're talking about there is this need to have these industries that we're familiar with. That's part of human nature and our wants and our needs. But currently, maybe these industries, the practices are maybe not optimal, and they're having a negative effect on people and the environment. So it looks like what you guys are doing, like what we are doing, and a lot of many other projects, is we're tapping into the power of blockchain, this new technology, and the people, the community that is linked to that, to kind of create these better models. And so the white paper is a really interesting white paper, and it goes into a lot of detail. So I highly recommend people kind of check that out, and there'll be a link in the description as well. But what would be some, because white papers can be pretty kind of full on for some people, what would be some of the major takeaways, I guess, for people that have read the white paper and are still trying to wrap their head around it, or maybe some that just are skim reading it? What would be some of those kind of key takeaways from the white paper?
Yeah, I think I would say 3 takeaways. The first one is that we're introducing this Waya economy, that we just say a decentralized economy is better than a centralized one for efficiency, humans and Earth. So this is kind of the overall thing that we want to achieve. The other thing that is more technical, but that people should take away, is that we're trying to build the operation system for these new industries. And you will read about 4 dApps really, and we explain the whole details of how they work, but I think the main takeaways of them is that we looked at what is the thing that these businesses need to succeed, and we realized that it's 4 things. First, it's governance. They need to have the knowledge and they have to good governance to really lead the business in a sustainable direction. They have to have the knowledge, industry knowledge, how do I build a factory? How do I do all of these things? It's not easy to have that. They have to have money, so they have to have liquidity to even build the factory, for example. And they need to have a network of a market and suppliers. And through these 4 dApps, we basically solve, or we give them the operation system to really build a franchise, or a franchisee and a business within this collective. I think this is what really to take away is from these steps, that we give businesses all of the things that they need, and really share resources. And the last thing that I think is the takeaway is that especially for investors, for people who look into buying the Waya token, what can you even do with it? So the liquidity protocol, I think, is really interesting. And how it works on a very high level is, as an investor, I can buy Waya tokens and I can stake them in the liquidity protocol. These funds, along with everyone others, are then used to finance these factories, operations, these proven business models, these franchisees. And at the point of sale, when the money comes back, you as an investor will get your money back plus a return. And of course, it's a liquidity protocol, so you can put it there and take it out. So there's really almost no risk, but you can really invest in this new economy. I think that's probably one of the coolest things to participate from everywhere.
Interesting. So you mentioned the token as well, and on that you have an ISPO, which we will, I think, go into detail after soon, before the end of the podcast. But so those are the key takeaways. and again, the full white paper link will be in the description. Highly recommend people check it out because it is really interesting. What I'd like to do now is share my screen, and let me just do that now while I talk. So the Waya Collective you mentioned is kind of a production network, and that generally speaking opens up the scope of what you guys can do based on that kind of framework. But one use case would be the fashion use case, which you have on here. So could you maybe talk about from the fashion industry, what are some of the use cases and problems that you can solve through this sort of a model?
Yeah, so we as Waya Collective, we really want to build lean, and that means we don't want to first build the whole platform and all of these steps. We just want to start small. So we had to decide for one industry, which definitely will also be working in for probably years, because it just takes a long time. It's kind of how Amazon started with books, we start with fashion. And yeah, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we believe that there's a market opportunity. So as you can see on the website, imported fashion products in Africa are generic and expensive. So we believe that, especially in the African context, what localized production can do in local brands is actually bring targeted products, which you almost don't have in the African fashion industry, because most of the things are either generic imports from maybe China or secondhand fashion. Of course, it's also it brings people things to wear, but it really is not targeted to them. And we believe that there is really a huge opportunity in the upcoming middle class of people who want to express themselves. It's one thing that I always noticed when I was here, that people really care about what they wear, because I think most of the society is still really young, so they really have to prove themselves. And I think fashion is really a way that at least Ugandans really do it. And I always find this fascinating. So first of all, we see a market. Without a market, no industry works, of course. And on the other hand, we also really see a huge manufacturing potential, especially in the garment industry, and also one that is easy to start with. So it would be a bit of a long shot if we start now and say we want to build cars, because it's really hard to build cars, and it's not so hard to produce fashion. So another advantage is also that it's very labor intensive. So the thing that is there's a lot of human resource. There's a lot of people who are trying to find a job, who have also experience in the fashion industry and being tailors. So there's really the knowledge there, the resources there, to really start out, and we can give a lot of people jobs in this field. It's also, it's quite a hard industry in the way that it's really fast changing. So you really have to, it's not like you produce maybe yogurt and you produce the same yogurt for 10 years. What you actually produce changes every few months, which makes it hard. But on the other hand, that is also for us really good to learn, because we want to build the systems alongside, and we can now use this to really build systems that are fast changing and really responsive to what the market wants.
And so if we come down to how it works, could you perhaps just touch on this diagram and I guess what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really about also how it works now, or what is the thing that we are building now on the ground, which for us starts with the clothing brand. So as I said, we also want to build lean, so it's always starts with the demand. What does the customer really want? So right now we're building the first brand. We're just in the process of registering it, and we are going to launch a very first collection in the next 1.5 months. So really soon from now, to test the market. learn the market, and yeah, produce with a partner to really also bit learn, yeah, test these hypotheses and learn, okay, how can we actually build a functioning garment factory? And then the next stage would really be to build the factory. So to have our own factory that really fulfills the needs, that it is easily replicable. So we're not just going to build a factory in Uganda. We want that this factory can be used to be built 100 times. So we're really going to also start rather small, maybe with one production line, and then but have probably a place that is bigger so that we can extend and really build the perfect factory over time for this use case, which will then supply the clothing brand. And the garment factory, that will happen around the end of the year. Yeah, and same with the clothing store. We plan to do like a pop-up store to also test our models there, and then launch a store soon. And yeah, once this first local ecosystem is kind of built, we intend to scale it. So then we can just replicate it. So now when we finish this in Uganda, we have all of the learnings how to build one collective, one of these local ecosystems, and then we can learn how to replicate it. So then it's going to be the first autonomous one. And then once we have learned that, we can hopefully replicate it many times and really build a lot of these factories and stores and brands over the next years, add more brands, add more different categories of factories. But yeah, this is really how we start out with.
Yeah, it seems like you have a focus on what we're doing now are being designed in a way that they could be replicated later. So there's obviously this problem is applicable to so many different people, and you find with a lot of RealFi challenges, even with Empower the housing, you know, there's millions and millions of people that are wanting affordable housing. So the solutions that we design in the short term at the beginning need to kind of be designed in a way where they could kind of scale up, because that's ultimately where we want to get to. And it's apparent that you guys obviously think about that, which is cool. I think you touched on the timeline stuff. I don't know if anything you wanted to touch on here that you didn't touch on.
I think I touched on that. I think it's what's important, I think, to know is that we are starting on ground that we're already building, and we're building in a way that we prove hypotheses and know we can actually, this is the framework, the ground, the foundation for this big thing that we're trying to build.
Yeah. Okay, let me just stop the share now. We can go back to the normal thing. Yeah, thanks for that. So it's it's nice. So fashion is just one use case, but this model that you're proving is can maybe exist in other areas as well. Is that kind of the idea? Yeah. So fashion is just like the books for Amazon. Fashion is the first thing. But wow, okay, I like it. As I said before about the token, and there's an ISPO. Do you want to maybe elaborate on the ISPO and how the details around that and how people can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the ISPO is a really awesome way to get involved quite early. As I said, I think we have been around for a longer time than people might think, because we've been really focused on learning what's on ground. And in terms of the Cardano community, we're just growing at the moment. I think we're growing quite good, but for everyone who is there now, I think it's a really awesome time to really join. Yeah, the ISPO, so next to the obvious thing that you can get our tokens and become part of Waya, and of course also the deal and the tokenomics, which you can also find on the website. What we're trying to achieve with the ISPO as well is we actually think it's also a great initiative for us to build something on ground that will help both Cardano and Waya in the long run. So we actually want to build physical stake pools with the ISPO. So right now it's not physical, but we're currently working on actually setting up a physical one. And we call it kind of the stake pool collective that we're trying to build, which will not just be happening within the ISPO, so not just the pools that you can delegate to in the ISPOs, but also later on we want to build more and more physical stake pools, which also function as like independent, autonomous, small enterprises. But yeah, we believe that it will really support Cardano's stability, of course, which is important for Waya Collective to work. But also we can kind of increase the capacity with local Hydra heads, because all of these transactions happening in these industries later on will be on the blockchain. And of course, this is expensive, it takes capacity, and Hydras is something that we really want to use. And by having really local physical stake pools, that is something we think is a really great way to do that. And we're starting with that in the ISPO, really growing and building physical stake pools, starting there. But this is just the beginning, really. And so next to getting Waya tokens, and we also believe that it's a pretty good deal that we propose. You also help in building actual physical stake pools in the ISPO, which is, I think, pretty cool.
Yeah. And so the ticker for that is, for those that are searching it, WYACO. Yeah. And obviously you can learn more about it on the website as well. Just on the ISPO stuff, the physical stake pools, these innovations within the ISPO framework is quite interesting. Like ISPs is such a new, interesting concept, and there's so many different variations of it, which could do a lot of that are quite interesting to me. Like it's quite an interesting space from even just the purely technical blockchain perspective.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Probably not, just a couple more questions to go. I know the power's, as you mentioned earlier, the power's out, so we're on a short time here, but is it back on?
It's not back on, but actually my battery is lasting longer than I thought.
Okay. I think the community, how there's quite a passionate RealFi community in Cardano, and there's always people kind of saying, where can I find that, particularly interested in blockchain projects that are trying to have a real world impact. What's the best way that people can, I guess, become part of the Waya Collective? Where can they find you guys? All that kind of stuff.
Well, where can they not find us? I think but of course, Twitter is the main thing for everyday things. We post, of course, every day. For those who want to get a more insightful updates, is definitely on Telegram. And for those who really want to get into what we do, it's really Discord. We're really happy to have quite engaged Discord server. There's a lot happening, and we also have like a community contributor program. So there's also really ways to actually contribute, and in the near future also earn tokens with it. So one thing that we're really working on is the DAO. So we really believe that Waya Collective and this model of building new industries only makes sense if it's a real DAO. And we already also want to kind of build the foundation for that by trying to even lead Waya Collective as it is now, and the community especially as a DAO, really being open to contributions. Also, of course, giving back in terms of, for example, tokens or NFTs or whatever in that way. So there's definitely, like, we're really open I think, to have people contributing, and we're really open to ideas. We're really building a framework right now that makes it possible for everyone to contribute.
Yeah, okay. So, and these links as well, I will include in the description as well for those that want to kind of join the community, which again, I recommend. Before I go into the final question, is there anything that you want to touch on that we haven't touched on yet?
No, I don't think so.
They cover most of it. Yeah, and I think for those that want to learn more, again, go to the website, white paper. There's everything that you need on there, and if it's not there, hop onto the Discord and ask some questions. Alrighty, so for the final question, it's kind of a bit of a fun one, but what excites you the most about the future of RealFi?
I don't think it's a fun question, to be honest. I think it's a very impactful question, because I think that for me, I think we're really only seeing the very, very tip of the iceberg of RealFi. I think that it's generally the technology of blockchain is very new, and people maybe forget about it, but it only really functions in rather small places in the world, even though of course it had already grew quite big, but actually functioning, I think there's still so many business models to be explored. Like, I think it is something that can really be the operation system for a new world, which can really go into all different kinds, any kind of business, really. And I think that, you know, even in the Cardano space, I think that there's not so much going on in terms of RealFi projects. I mean, there's a couple, but I think, yeah, I think that there's just so much more coming. Like, that's probably the thing that excites me most, that I think it's not even, you can't even imagine yet what people will come up with. And yeah, just seeing it growing and the world that it will create, I think it's just awesome. I think that what excites me most is the huge possibilities I see that can just always be explored.